Radio Free America. This is Uncle Sam with music and the truth until dawn. Right now, I got a few words for some of our brothers and sisters in the occupied zone. The chair is against the wall. The chair is against the wall. John has a long mustache. John has a long mustache. It's 12 o'clock, Americans, another day closer to victory. And for all of you out there on or behind the lines, this is your song.
Hey, and welcome everybody to another episode of our Daily Gun Show, coming to you live every weeknight at midnight Eastern. And we talk about guns for about an hour. And I am chatting with Roosted from Minnesota on the on the chat here. We run this live. I'm doing it tonight on this platform called The Duck. It is a cloud-based service that allows me to log in for free and connect to my YouTube account. I run the show through this thing called StreamYard on the cloud, so I don't need any resources for my machine. I can invite people in with a limit of 6 people, and then we can have a discussion here, and as it happens live, it's being streamed to YouTube, it's called. So there's a live feed going to YouTube, and that's being promoted you're watching that on YouTube right now, if you're watching it live. Once it ends, the stream, I push a button and the stream ends here, so that feed stops to YouTube, and it takes all that video and renders it into a video for me. It takes that live stream, listens, records the whole thing, and then renders that into usable, like a replayable video, and posts that on their system. So that's 2 platforms working together so that we can accomplish this. I mention it because it's not my favorite platform. YouTube is a tool. YouTube is a big, giant platform, a large search engine, but it's just what it is. It's a tool. It's just one thing. So StreamYard is an option that came up in September of this year, so early September this year, I think, so that we could facilitate this live conversation. But there's another option that's better, and it's called GunTube, guntube.org, and that's a Pro 2A version of this, which is very similar. It's cloud-based. It doesn't require software in your machine, and it is Pro 2A. So it's run by Mike out of South Carolina, and it's a legitimate software designed to be Pro 2A and to provide this same service. However, unlike this one that has a limit of 6 people at one time, the GunTube does not have a limit. The GunTube chamber does not have a limit. So it's a better software for facilitating the conversation between the actual people that join the conversation. It's much better on the GunTube chamber because when it's over, this particular system called StreamYard requires me, the host, the person that created the broadcast, I have to still orchestrate. If there were people here tonight with me, they'd be showing up on the screens, little squares and stuff, and it's a tool that I have on my end as the host to do that, to produce that, or whatever it's called, to direct that, to point at the little box that it's going to be on the screen. So if that person leaves after it's off air, when the show's all over, when it's behind the scenes, or we call it off air, it's a much more clunky system. So as soon as I leave as the host, the people who are still chatting are just destined to only be able to chat with each other. On the other hand, when the show's over on something like GunTube Chamber, that room is still available. And the reason I bring that up, for the people watching the live conversation, of course, it ends when we hit stop broadcast or end broadcast or whatever the button tells us. But the people in the room don't disappear. And often, in fact, quite often, the shows go many, many minutes, sometimes hours, beyond when we turn that live stream off. And some of the stuff that's accomplished in those times is, well, one of the reasons I'm even doing this online. I don't do it for the money. If there was a way to make money, I'm not efforting at it. I try to make enough money to do what I'm doing. But, it certainly isn't a financial effort. I'm not getting famous. I have no interest in that. However, I would like to change the world. That seems like a neat challenge. And I feel like firearms are important part of changing the world for a positive. An awareness and understanding of our community would go a long way. So an alternative ulterior motive for me for these live conversations is the time that we have off air is immeasurable and undescribable. Like that opportunity to chat with people and to share ideas. I'm not saying I came up with ideas. I just listen like a fly on the wall, try to remember things. And when I find good ideas, if I can relay them onto people that can make use of the concept or the system or whatever it is, the little bits, I'm not the only one doing that. Of course, everyone's doing that at every live show, the beginning, during, and after. And that's why guntube.org, Mike's looking at the future, and this system works. It facilitates the concept in a way, but Mike's system is better, and it facilitates that off-air stuff. So I'm having to blab by myself because nobody's in here tonight. But since I'm got the show to myself, I guess I will elaborate on that part of it. So why do I care that we chat off air? Because a lot of people are actually trying to affect change. They're trying to create new, evolve the conversation, evolve our community, and that kind of stuff, needs collaboration. It can take some motivation sometimes, some inspiration, and those are the kind of things that get accomplished in those off-air conversations. Reason I bring in all this up, another reason I'm bringing all this up is I've got a campaign running right now for the Shooter's Almanac. I'm sure everyone who's listening to this live or even in rebroadcast understands by now that project started. And it's an excuse, right? It's an excuse to do a lot of things. One, to try publishing. I've never done that. Two, an excuse to get history in people's hands in a different way. That's the biggest goal. But one of the other goals is to practice this crowdfunding project, way of doing it. And part of that is part of that is getting on a bunch of different podcasts and being included on some different channel discussions and stuff. Something I don't normally seek out because I don't care. But on the other hand, because I don't seek out some of those things, I don't get a chance to have those off-air conversations with some people. So this is an opportunity to have those situations, to create a situation where I have a reason to talk to them, and the reason's valid. I'm not trying to sell a new pair of shoes or something else. It's a useful doodad that we're talking about. But then after the weekend broadcast, I can invite them to take a look at the crowdfunding platform, this 31st campaign that I've done. I'm very comfortable with how the platforms work and the process and the ways that we as content creators will talk about audience and trends, and there's concepts that we think of as people putting content out there and having to deal with the metrics and the consequences and the comments and all the different pieces of it. I can explain that stuff to these other content creators, and I'd really like, at least I personally would like to see a time when we as content creators don't have to worry so much about the financing. I think the people that are participating in the financial side of these projects today, if we can evolve this whole thing, you're cutting the way. You're the people that are putting your money down to establish crowdfunding as a viable option for 2A projects. So if we can get that across to people, that other content creators in the firearms realm, that we can ask a smaller number of people to contribute an insignificant amount of money, and that accumulates to accomplish, to provide the resources for pretty much anything any individual project might need. And we see that, you can either see it or you don't pay attention, but it's happening all over the place, on Patreon mostly, but also with some other platforms where projects are getting up off the ground and they're getting wind beneath their wings or whatever. Like, they're catching lift, not from sponsorship or sugar mamas, but instead from just a little bit from a lot of people, and that's allowing them to be as interesting or specific or as weird as they want to be. And the people that want to see that are part of that, making that happen. Again, you guys are groundbreaking, the people that are supporting my project, the other people that are efforting in this direction, because as you do this and you establish this as a precedent, we leave the concept of having to appeal to so many people that advertising works. Advertising's fine, and it works all over the place, and it has worked, but the internet isn't the same. We're not bound by those rules. We're not bound by those restrictions, and we have more power over here, more ability to do things. So with that ability, we can find the fewer, more serious individuals who are willing to participate And when we're able to do that, I believe what we end up with is actual flavor instead of having boring yellow the cheese product, cheese food that they make out of whipped oil. Instead, we have the actual cheeses made out of the actual milks and whatever the hell they make cheese out of. You don't want to know what they make cheese out of, but we have the actual specific kinds of shooting interests and variety of actual shooters, and not just some thing that's just plain vanilla that appeals to the most so that advertising works. And so often there's so many ways to complain about the way that advertising works, and it's manipulative and all that. It speaks to an audience. When you're trying to sell an audience yellow shoes, or instead of green shoes or something, you're going to need to manipulate them. You're going to have to play on their emotions. You're going to have to push triggers that human beings have, that mammals have, that instincts that mothers and fathers have, and it's manipulative. And here nor there, we're capitalists, deal with it. We all get manipulated constantly. But firearms and Second Amendment awareness are not. We don't think we need to use that. So I like the idea of crowdfunding. So we're going to keep saying you guys are the ones that lead the way, because once we establish, and it becomes more there's more light focused on the fact that crowdfunding works. What I'd like to see, I don't know if it's the next obvious step in the evolution, but what I'd like to see is gun shops understanding that that's a possibility, gun shops getting involved. And when a gun shop can take a portion of their advertising dollars and push it into an individual effort that they value. For example, if let's say a gun shop is really into cowboy action shooting, and there's somebody in their area that's either an influencer or whatever reason that person is of value to that gun shop, or could be of value to that gun shop. I'd like to see a time when those two are working together and not trying to both appeal to maybe a revolver manufacturer. So once that smaller relationship happens, the revolver manufacturer can come by and enhance whatever that local thing is. And now that gives every content creator something to talk about, something to compare, and it gives us some rejuvenation in the community, and it teaches us about the tools that we have available. It empowers us to think of YouTube and Facebook and Twitter as tools, as implements that we use instead of environments that we're restricted to be in. So so many people waste their lives being butthurt about a policy decision on a single platform when there's no need to be on a single platform and to spend any amount of time restricted to an environment that's completely controlled by someone who's not just not you, but someone who is anti-gun and anti everything that firearms mean. So that can be very, very stifling, and we see it. I don't know if everybody sees it, depending on if you are on Twitter or on Facebook, but when you're not on Facebook, it's painfully obvious when people come from Facebook or when they're used to dealing with Facebook, because they're just a different type of person than someone who reads books all the time or someone who never watches YouTube videos. There's personality traits, and you can certainly tell when somebody's a Facebooker. Anyhow, I think we all do better in a future where we as the gun community aren't reliant on the tools, but simply masters of the tools, the same way that we might be masters of a revolver, but still understand how to shoot a black powder and a long-range rifle. We just prefer a revolver. I'm looking forward to a future when our internet tools are simply implements, and our conversations are what matter, and the communities, the groups of people who gather and listen, and pay attention and communicate and contribute and participate in the various projects out there. The more those individuals are aware of how big the scope is, how big our community is, I suspect there's going to be a lot less of the, oh, well, we're doing fine, but we don't need that stuff. Or like Andrew Gottlieb had mentioned, like the gamers and the gun people. Whenever they say video games are the problem, if a gamer is not a gun person, they might have the tendency to say it's not video games, it's the guns. And the same way around, if a gun person isn't a video gamer, you might have a tendency to say it's not the guns, it's the video gamers. And that's an ambush. That's a situation orchestrated, I suspect, intentionally by the antis, the people that frame the message, that distribute that message. They create that animosity. They create that choice, that artificial choice that needs to be made. And with education, with awareness, both sides of that, whenever it happens in the future, can say, how dare you suggest that it's one of these when it's, existed longer or whatever. But with that, I've been online for 20 minutes, I think, and no one's jumping in. So let me see if I got any emails from anybody. Otherwise, you know me, I am not interested in this. This does not appeal to me, just blabbing like this. So I'm going to end it. Nobody has any questions or anything, and nobody's jumping in. I did have a chat earlier with John Crump. Went pretty well, I think. That was my second opportunity. Gizzard let me blab for a bit on his show to kind of get ready for John's, and then I have a potential scheduled with Ken Blanchard, but that's the only responses I've got. So we'll see how many more guest spots I can beg off of people, and I guess that's it. So everybody's saying hi to each other. I need a computer in my life. Anyone else in gun channels on an iPhone? My Android work right over there. This thing, not so much. Yeah, I'm nothing I can be able to do about gun channels. Gun channels is what it is. You know me. I am not trying to build the new Facebook. I am certainly not trying to create expensive mobile apps that, I don't know, do anything. My suggestion, if you're having issues with gun channels on a mobile, don't fight it. Don't use mobile. Flip to your phone browser to show me the desktop version. And when it opens up, it's probably going to try to feed you the mobile version. But if you scroll all the way to the bottom of the mobile version, it'll say, give me the full version. So when you tell your browser to show you in the desktop view, and you additionally tell gun channels to show you in the desktop view, you should just get a desktop view. Now, I'm not totally sure if that happens in iPhone, but if Gary was here, he could verify or not. And let me know if that works for you. That works for us on Androids. Otherwise, I am sorry to tell you that there's nothing I can do. Gun channels may change completely next month. We'll see how that goes. Every Second Matters is changing. We talked about that on the 2nd. And nobody's asking any more questions. Nobody's asked any questions, actually. So Pants is saying you're on his desktop version on the phone, right on. And everybody's just saying hey to each other. So I guess with that, I will say thanks to everybody for jumping in. I wanted to have a show. Oh, let me say the reason I wanted to have a show is because if anybody bought anything from the store today, I wanted them to be able to pick a patch. So you just have to cry out if you're out there, because I don't know on YouTube, you know how it is. I only know if somebody says something. So if you ordered something from the store today, if you want to contact me privately on gun channels, I'll be over there for a bit. I don't think there's any point in leaving this room open since I've been here by myself. But I wanted to give an opportunity for anybody that did order today to be able to pick patches or stuff like that. I haven't been able to do that in a while. So thanks again to the people purchasing stuff at the store to give me the time to even do that. And then, of course, the Patreon supporters. I mean, that is my only reason I'm here. So thanks very much for that. And I wanted to, again, give people the opportunity, if they grab something today, to pick a patch or whatever. But it doesn't look like anyone here has done that. But no guilt, nothing. I appreciate everybody that's here. With that, I am out. So stay tuned for, what is it? Rick will have a show tomorrow. I don't think there's anything happening in the morning. If you're interested in running a show, Saturday mornings were a great time for Travis when he was able to do it. Now that he's had to shift schedules to deal with his lifestyle or his life schedule, there's this time on Saturday mornings if you're interested in running a show. Most of the time on gun channels, at least in the last 6 years, when someone runs a live show, people figure it out and show up. So if you're interested, feel free. No obligation. But thanks everybody for showing up. We'll be back to pick you up later.